Uncle Duck sang, this freshly cut pork and these 2 feet of red cloth are what I brought to propose to Hong Mi.
Lin Weidong, you get that drafty, broken cave house of yours.
And your crippled father. You still expect to marry my daughter? But Uncle Dakyang, I can earn work points.
I promise I will never let Hong Mi suffer.
Earn points? My ass! Lin Weidong, who do you think you are, coming here to propose? Do you know how much I offered Uncle Daksang?
100 yuan for the bride price, plus 2 bags of premium flour.
How are you trying to humiliate with that pathetic scrap of pork?
脚教军厮打，脚拔过，意识的黑的可立屁股界。
Clashing with them now will only lead to trouble. Weidong, out of respect for your late grandfather, I won't push you to the absolute brink. That patch of saline Kalkali land in Wild Boar Gully on the west side of the village, nobody in the entire brigade can grow a single thing on it. Tomorrow, if you can make even a single green sprout pop up from that dead land, we can discuss your marriage to Hong Mi again. But if you fail, don't you dare step foot in my house ever again. Fine, Uncle Dax.
You said it.
The wind in Wild Boar Gully is so piercingly cold, it cuts straight to the bone. This saline Akali land is stark white, as if a layer of frost has been sprinkled over the soil. Forget crops. Even a single weed can barely survive here. What on earth am I going to do? Brother. Yeah? What are you doing out here in the middle of the night? Go back home, quickly. I was worried you'd be scared out here all alone, brother. Brother, is it true you can never go to Sister Hong Mei's house again?
教将军是个厚独不理。
I won't let you lose to him. I, Lin Weidong, have played dumb and slacked off for all these years, just to keep myself safe in this village, where the Zhao family rules supreme. But now, I can't even protect the woman I love. Heavens, are you completely blind? Wait, what is this strange power flowing through my body? I can feel it. The soil in my hands is no longer just dead, lifeless dirt. Instead, it felt like a living, breathing bloodline. My consciousness seemed to expand without limits. Instantly, I understood the deep yearning of this land, feeling a profound connection with every plant. This was an innate resonance, deep within my blood. For so many years, sleeping out on the dirt ridges of the fields, I was actually unconsciously sensing the breath of the crops and trees. Could it be that, at this very moment, this hidden potential of mine has been completely unleashed? Live, grow with everything you've got. The seeds that had just been sown in this salty wasteland were like starving wolves, suddenly finding water in a drought, crazily absorbing the sheer life force I was channeling into them. Ah! In barely the time it takes to smoke a pipe, this barren soil where nothing could ever survive has actually sprouted a massive patch of lush, juicy green cabbages. And their size is absolutely insane. Every single one is as big as a wash basin. The leaves are incredibly thick and plump and glistening like crystal. Brother, are you performing a magic trick? Yeah, listen to me closely. This is our little secret. You mustn't tell a single soul. Not only is your brother going to marry your sister-in-law Hong Mei, but I'm also going to make sure our family eats fine white flour every single day. Lin Weidong, don't you go dying out in Wild Boar Gulch? Get your butt out here and admit defeat. Ga Shang sneered. I knew this kid was a useless piece of trash. If this salty wasteland can actually grow crops, I'll write my name. Zhao lead you backward.
这将好岛，八大具有。
You guys better watch your step. Don't go trampling the beautiful crops I just grew. Crops? Have you completely lost your mind? This is impossible. In just one single night, cabbages actually grew on this barren, salty land? How on earth are these cabbages bigger than a pig's head? The villagers instantly erupted in excitement. Everyone in the village stared at me like I was some kind of monster. Uncle Daksang, Does what you said last night still count? Lin Weidong, stop playing your goddamn parlor tricks. So what if you grew a few lousy cabbages? That doesn't prove jack shit.
Think you so tough over some crappy cabbages? If you've got the guts, let's make a real bet.
Lin Weidong, stop playing your damn cheap tricks on us.
You definitely stole these giant cabbages from someone else's private garden and buried them in the dirt overnight just to fool everyone.
Growing giant cabbages in dead alkaline soil overnight?
Who are you trying to fool? Do you think we're 3-year-old kids?
Dong usually complains about being too tired to even step foot in the fields.
He doesn't have the skills for this. He must have smuggled them in from the black market. The Zhao kid is absolutely right.
Zhao Jingjung, just because you're a useless loser doesn't mean everyone else is a piece of trash.
Fine. You want to claim I stole them? Then why don't you go ask the entire commune whose fields could possibly grow cabbages this damn big?
Lin Weidong, don't you get cocky with me?
If you've got the balls, let's make a real wager. Growing a few lousy cabbages doesn't prove a damn thing. 3 days. We set a 3-day limit. We'll head into the deep woods of Mount Laoyan. In 3 days, whoever brings back the most valuable prize wins Hong Mei's hand in marriage. And if you lose, pack up your useless, crippled father and get the hell out of Fong Xing Brigade. No, you can't do this.
Deep in Mount Laoyan, there are wild bears. Zhao Jinjun had his father, the village captain, backing him up.
He had a double-barrel shotgun, the absolute best gun in the entire village, and 2 ferocious hunting dogs by his side.
But me? I had nothing but a single rusty machete.
In everyone's eyes,
heading into those mountains was basically delivering myself as a free meal to the wild beasts. You absolute fool.
How do you expect to fight the Zhao family with nothing to your name? Do you think they haven't ruined our family enough already? Dad, I'm not just going to win. I'm going into those mountains to find 100-year-old wild ginseng and completely heal your leg. The honor and dignity of our family. I, Lin Weidong, will take it all back with my own 2 hands. Well, well, well. Look who we have here. If it isn't our village's grand cabbage king, how did you end up so pathetic that you can't even afford a hunting spear? Move it. A good dog doesn't block the path. Are you begging for a beating?
Easy, seek him. Teach this loser how to behave in the wild.
If that beast sinks its teeth into me, I'm going to lose a massive chunk of flesh from my thigh. But wait, don't panic. My mind has completely merged with this mountain forest. Every single blade of grass and every single wild vine are all my loyal guardians. My old friends. Held him down. What the hell is happening? We're cursed, Brother Jianjun.
Every single plant and tree in Mount Laoyan possesses a soul.
You've done nothing but evil. Even the wild weeds can't stand the sight of you anymore. I feel my consciousness spreading out like a giant web, stretching along the roots of the trees and plants, and crawling in all directions. 500 meters to the east, I sense the aroma of rare wild Timomar roots. Beneath the northern cliff, a massive cluster of premium lion's man mushrooms is thriving.
较善重.
You might have a gun to hunt game, but I have this entire mountain range as my informant. How can you possibly compete with me? This is a literal gold mine. But right next to this gold mine, there seems to be a terrifying beast lurking. Look at that. Those decaying logs in the shadow of the cliff are packed with wild lion's man mushrooms. And that's not all. Under the rotting leaves nearby, dark red stems are pushing their way up. Those are pure wild tiama roots. They're excellent for curing headaches. They're a highly sought-after commodity, and they're constantly sold out at the local co-op. Just this small patch alone could easily sell for over 100 yuan. That's worth 3 years of hard work points for any strong laborer in our brigade. Wait, could this treasure trove be that wild boar's territory? If this were the old me, I probably would have pissed my pants by now. But now,
This mountain is my home turf.
Old elm tree, lend me your roots to trip 'em up. 3.
I'll gladly take this massive wild boar off your hands. But bringing back a live wild boar is way too eye-catching. If anyone in the village spots it, that old fox Zhao Baguo will definitely get jealous and sabotage me. I need to find a way.
Lin Weidong. Instead of sleeping back at Hongsing Brigade,
What the hell are you doing wandering around up here? We don't buy rotten leaves here.
you better open your eyes and look.
Holy Mother of God? This premium quality Tenma? Where did you get your hands on this? Never mind that. Are you buying or not?
Sure, I'll buy. For the gastrodita, I'll give you 1 yuan 50 cents a pound. And the lion's mane mushrooms, let's say 1 yuan 50 cents as well.
Mikan, are you serious? I can practically feel your greedy abacus clicking right in my face. Young man, this gastrodia has such a smooth, clean surface.
And the texture is incredibly firm.
This is genuine, top-grade wild stock. I'll give you 3 yuan a pound. And 2 yuan 50 cents a pound for the lion's mane mushrooms. I'll take everything you've got.
Chief Song, now that's what I call a straight shooter. Actually, these are just the start. I've got a massive live one on the cart outside. Would you be interested in that?
Oh, wow. In this day and age,
A dead wild boar isn't anything special, but a live one can be sent to the livestock station for breeding.
that is an extremely rare and valuable asset.
For the gastrodedia and lion's mane, that's 60 yuan in total.
And I'll give you 120 yuan for the live wild boar. That brings us to a grand total of 181.
White sugar, fine flour,
Some fabric, and a pair of suede shoes I got for Hong Mei. Wait, why are there so many people outside my house? On what authority? Someone reported that your son, Weidong, stole collective timber from Mount Layan. So, Zhao Jinjun sneaked back into the village and got his dad to come here and cause trouble on purpose. Get your hands off my dad! Let him go!
In times like these, who could possibly afford to buy such luxury goods for New Year's?
Chief Chow, I gathered these wild goods in the deep mountains with my own 2 hands, and I traded them legitimately at the commune for these supplies.
If you don't believe me, you can go ask Chief Song in the county yourself.
Dad, here, take this money. Once this trouble blows over, I'll get you some proper medicine.
And I promise, I will heal your leg.
李董，
Jinjun told everyone that you died in the mountains. But look at me. I'm right here, safe and sound. From now on, I
Lin Weidong, we'll never let you suffer another day of misery. I promise.
Weidong, please don't go through with that bet tomorrow.
I overheard Jinjun talking to his father.
They are planning to destroy you in front of the entire village tomorrow.
Take a good look, everyone. I took down this 200-pound world boar with a single shot. This is the first time since the Red Star Brigade was founded that anyone has ever hunted a beast this massive.
This kid is out of his mind.
Wow, Jinjun. I've got to hand it to you. Your marksmanship is incredible.
Jikun, Uncle Halimu, you'd make something of yourself.
For me to marry into your Zhao family, that is the blessing of 8 lifetimes.
Look, the sun is already setting, and that useless waste Lin Weidong is nowhere to be seen.
He probably ran into a black bear and got torn to shreds.
Yes! Yes!
Since the Lin family kid didn't show up.
Then this bet. Who says I didn't show up? Lin Weidong, what are you doing with that beat-up cart? Stop playing tricks.
Hurry up and bring out your pitiful little catch. Don't waste my time. I need to get engaged to Hong Mi. Brother Jinju, open your damn eyes and take a good look. Let's see who is really playing tricks here.
Oh my God. Holy cow. It is alive! A live wild boar weighing over 400 pounds. Did Dongzi just raid the Dragon King's temple up on Mount Lion?
This whole family. Brother Jinjun, which one is worth more? A 200-pound dead pig or a 400-pound live boar?
According to our agreement, Daijia family is never allowed to bring up marrying Hong Mei ever again. Impossible. How could a useless loser like you catch a live 400-pound wild boar? You must have stolen it.
Startin?
Why don't you go into the mountains and try stealing a live 400-pound wild boar for me to see? Weidong, Uncle was only joking with you earlier.
You definitely won this bet.
Hold on. Think Xiao, these days, buying or selling large wild animals privately is illegal speculation. No one would dare buy a live pig. You can't even turn it into cash. How can you win with something that is completely worthless? You old fox, trying to play dirty?
Well, today, you have run straight into a brick wall. Captain Zhao,
You can read? Take a look at this yourself.
this live wild boar was personally requested and specially approved for purchase by Chief Song of the County Bureau. It is to be sent to the county meat processing plant for breeding, to support the nation's livestock industry.
How is supporting our nation's development?
Suddenly, illegal speculation when it comes out of your mouth.
120 bucks. This wild boar actually sold for 120 bucks? With the other mountain goods, that makes a whopping 180 bucks for our Red Star Brigade. That is an absolute fortune. Oh, Weidong, my boy. I always knew you were destined for greatness. You won the bet. From now on, Hong Mei is all yours.
Uncle Daxiang, I won the bet for Hong Mei's hand in marriage.
But I'll have to pay you the money later. I need to use this cash to treat my dad's leg first. Brother Weidong, there's hope for your dad's leg. But the place I heard about,
It's practically a suicide mission.
I went back to town and consulted an old herbalist. The nerves in your dad's leg aren't completely dead yet.
If we can find the key ingredient, a 100-year-old wild mountain ginseng, and steep it in medicinal wine for 6 months. You'll be able to stand right back up.
But 100-year-old ginseng like that
Can only be found deep in the Dabi Mountains on Soul Reaping Cliff. Soul Reaping Cliff. Soul Reaping Cliff? Even the most veteran hunters shake their heads in terror at that death trap.
Not only is the cliff face sheer and vertical, but it's also crawling with venomous snakes year-round.
Brother Song, if it can cure my dad, I storm the gates of hell itself.
We don't know. It's too dangerous.
I won't let you go. Fumi, wait for me to come back.
Once I'm back, my dad will walk into your house on his own 2 feet to ask for your hand.
At the top of the cliff, an ancient pine tree is radiating intense fear toward me.
Go come up. It's dangerous.
But with my plant affinity,
This entire mountain is an extension of my own body.
the old pine lowers its branches, pulling me up. The herbs on the cliff face unfurl their winding leaves.
Drive them away.
The plants on the cliff face instantly sense my will. Those inconspicuous winding grasses suddenly release a pungent odor. The venomous snakes lurking in the crevices scatter in terror like they've seen a ghost. With this, my dad's leg will fully recover.
凭据强呀，有啥压到苏瑞平客气，也是难活抗力吧。
The debt he owes my family.
Today, we're taking this miserable cave dwelling to settle it.
My son never owed you any money.
Break this old cripple's other leg, too. Touch my woman, and you die.
Brother, you're back.
Dad,
I brought the medicine back.
Is this really the Ginseng King from Soul Breaking Cliff? Dad, drink it! All the humiliation you've suffered over these past 10 years. Today, we're going to settle every single debt, once and for all. A cripple who's been paralyzed for 10 years thinks he can stand up just by drinking some cheap liquor?
if he can actually stand up,
I'll call him my grandfather today. Ah. Ah. It feels like thousands of ants are gnawing at my bones. Ha ha ha.
Like we, daughter, did you just feed your father poison?
I know wild mountain ginseng has incredible healing power, but why is Dad in so much pain? Did something go wrong? Oh my God! The tough as steel man of the Red Star Brigade is finally back.
This is impossible.
教君，臣也是高。
Your father, Zhao Baguo, was caught in a landslide.
I was the one who blocked the falling rocks and broke my leg for him.
not only did he never repay my kindness, he even pocketed my disability allowance.
Now it's time to pay the price.
Get them. Bite this cripple and his little brat to death.
We'll call it ridding the brigade of pests.
Don't panic, Dad.
I'll handle this.
I already knew the Zhao family would retaliate. Earlier in the yard, I secretly used my plant affinity ability to accelerate the growth of the wild numbing grass in the corner, bringing its potency to its absolute peak. On the mountain, even cattle and horses would have their nervous systems paralyzed if they ate this, let alone dogs.
Eat up, you beasts!
Captain Zhao.
It seems your dogs have a pretty weak stomach.
Think your dogs and get the hell out of here. That old fox will definitely not let this slide.
Brother Dong, this is bad.
Brother Dong, please go save my sister. My dad has gone completely mad.
The old bachelor director of the commune meat plant, the one who's already outlived 2 wives, suddenly came to propose.
He gave my dad $1,500 and promised to get me a permanent job at the factory. What about your sister? My sister flat out refused to marry him. My dad went absolutely ballistic. He locked her in the woodshed in the backyard and starved her for 2 whole days. He said tomorrow morning, Director Zhu's people are coming with a tractor to tie her up and drag her away.
You bastard, Su Dakshan.
Just for money and your son's future, you're really going to throw your own daughter into a living hell.
Damn you, Zhao Baguo!
This is definitely your dirty trick to ruin me and cut off my escape. I kicked the courtyard gate wide open, grabbed the wood-splitting axe, and stormed straight towards the Su family home.
Bidong, don't do this stupid.
You can't lay a hand on your elders, Dad. Whoever tries to stop me from marrying Hongmei today is my sworn enemy. By the time I rushed to the Su family's house,
The courtyard gates were tightly shut.
From inside, I could hear Suda Jiang's angry cursing and Hongmei's weak but stubborn cries.
Without a second thought, I raised the axe, aimed it at the heavy wooden door, and hacked down with all my might.
Crack! With a deafening crash, wood splinters flew everywhere. Inside the courtyard, Su Dashang was holding a cane. When he saw me storming in with an axe like a god of death, he shuddered in sheer terror.
Help! Someone help! Lin Weidong is trying to kidnap my daughter.
Lin Weidong, don't you dare do anything reckless.
I've already taken Director Zhu's money. Hongmei belongs to the Zhu family now. I completely ignored him. I stormed forward, swung the axe with all my might, and with a loud clang,
The heavy iron lock on the woodshed door was smashed to pieces. I shoved Su Dashang aside and burst into the woodshed.
Weidong.
You're finally here.
My heart ached with agonizing pain. I quickly untied the hemp rope and held her tight in my arms. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I'm late. Let's go. I'm taking you away from here.
Where do you think you're going?
Your body and life belong to your parents. She is my daughter. I raised her. Even if she dies, she must die as a member of the Zhu family. Dad.
You keep saying I owe you. Then let this hair pay you back for giving me life. From this day on, I am no longer a Su. Even in death, I belong to Lin Weidong.
Lin Weidong, you want her? That'll be 1,500 yuan.
Bring me that money in 3 days. Slap it down on my table and you can take her. But if you're even 1 cent short, I'll report you for human trafficking.
3 days, 1,500 yuan.
I, Lin Weidong, will bring you every single cent.
Sure. Those were bold words, but 1,500 yuan was a massive mountain to climb. Where on earth was I going to find that kind of money? Staring at the endless, overlapping peaks of the mountains behind our village, a wild, incredibly dangerous idea flashed through my mind. Farming or hunting to get 1,500 yuan in just 3 days? That was pure fantasy. But I knew the Red Star Brigade had a walking vault. Our village chief, Zhao Baguo, that old fox, had held absolute power here for years, abusing his authority. He'd been secretly trafficking protected wildlife pelts out of Eagle Mountain. He even hoarded illegal shotguns and explosives. If I could find his hidden stash and report him, the reward from the county would be more than enough to free Hongmei. That very night, I snuck up Eagle Mountain alone in the pitch black, in the deep forest. It was so dark, I couldn't even see my hand, but I knelt down, pressing my hands against the damp earth. My plant affinity connection surged, tracing through the roots of the trees and spreading in all directions.
Plants can't speak.
But their roots can feel every tremor in the earth and detect the bitter scent of gunpowder. They knew exactly where the earth had been hollowed out.
Soon, a century-old pine halfway up the mountain sent me a strange, hollow sensation.
Its massive root system had hit a stone barrier deep underground, and there was a strong, lingering smell of gun oil. Following the connection, I made my way over. Deep inside a hidden cave, I cleared away the loose soil and lifted the stone slab. There, neatly stacked underneath,
were 3 large crates of explosives, 5 standard hunting rifles, and a stash of precious tiger bones and bear gallbladders. Suddenly, a faint rustling of footsteps came from behind me.
Well, well, Lin Weidong. There's a path to heaven, but you chose not to take it.
There's no gate to hell, yet you just had to barge right in.
Today, I'm going to bury you right in this pit.
Out of the darkness, Xiaobogo stepped forward, raising a double-barreled shotgun. Its cold, black barrel was aimed dead at the back of my head. Well, Chief Xiao, out in the middle of nowhere, checking your inventory in the dead of night? You little bastard. Your old man managed to survive 10 years ago. But today, I'm sending you straight to hell. Did you really think I'd head into these mountains in the dead of night completely unprepared? Just as Xiaobogo froze in shock, several blinding flashlight beams suddenly cut through the darkness outside the cave. Freeze! Nobody move! Chief Song burst into the cave like a force from above, leading more than a dozen heavily armed officers. Xiaobogo, you're under arrest for illegal possession of firearms and ammunition and trafficking endangered wildlife. Let's see where you run this time. Cuff them! At the captain's order, the cold metal handcuffs snapped tightly around Xiaobogo's wrists. Staring at the uncovered contraband, Xiaobogo collapsed onto the ground like a deflated balloon. He knew that the Zhao family's decades-long reign as the local tyrants of Red Star Brigade was officially over. The next morning, the county's official commendation was announced. For cracking this massive weapons smuggling case, the police department authorized a massive reward of $2,000 for the crucial lead. $2,000! Now I have the $1,500 bride price. I took a deep breath of the crisp morning air and strode purposefully towards Su Dashang's house. Meanwhile, a brand new tractor rumbled into the Red Star Brigade. A pot-bellied, balding, middle-aged man hopped down. It was Director Zhu from the local meat processing plant. Oh, Director Zhu, you're finally here. Homie is inside waiting for you. I paid the money in full, so I'm taking her with me today. Not so fast. I pulled 3 thick stacks of brand new bills out of my canvas bag and slammed them onto the stone table in the yard. $1,500. Not a single penny short. Uncle Dashang, take a good look. Where did this dirt-poor peasant come from? Flashing money he probably stole from who knows where. How dare you try to steal the woman I have my eyes on? Stolen? Director Jewel, watch your mouth. Don't you dare make baseless accusations. This is my official reward for a heroic deed. Every single serial number is on record. Su Dashang, are you playing me? Your son's permanent job slot at the factory. Believe it or not, I can have it revoked with a single word.
Hearing this, Su Dashang immediately panicked.
He was about to back out of his promise. Again. Weidong, I can't take your money. Your reward is just a one-time lump sum. But Director Zhu can secure a lifetime career for Kenjin's future. Homie must marry him today, Dad. Are you really sacrificing my life just to buy Chenjin a job? Are you even human? A permanent job at the meat processing plant? Director Zhu, does your party secretary know you're selling the plant's hiring quotas for personal profit? Does the county disciplinary office know about this? Don't you try to bully me with your fake authority. Let's take a trip to the county office right now, and we'll see. Section Chief Saul of the County Bureau of Materials is my brother. And it just so happens, he's in charge of allocating materials to your meat processing plant. How about I use the crank handle phone at the brigade office and ask him for you? At the sight of the business card with the red official seal, Director Zhu broke out in a cold sweat. Lose his job over a woman? He knew how to do the math. You win this round. But just you wait. Su Dashang was completely dumbfounded. His son's job was gone, and his wealthy future son-in-law had run off. In a fit of rage, he lunged to grab the money off the table. This money belongs to me, but I snatched the cash back in a flash. Lin Weidong, what the hell do you mean by this? Once the money is on the table, you don't get to take it back. I said, Dashang, I offered it to you just now, but you didn't want it. Now, the rules have changed. Homie cut her hair yesterday to show her determination to sever ties. She's no longer a Su. I'm keeping this money for her personal savings. Not as dirty money for you to sell off your daughter. You little bastard. How dare you play me? Come on, let's go home. And just like that, under the watchful eyes of the entire village, we walked right out of the Su family home with our heads held high. I used the remaining 500 yuan to buy a sewing machine at the commune and a bicycle. Braving all the village gossip, Hong Mei moved into the Lin family home without looking back. With my father and Yaya as our witnesses, We had a simple, warm family dinner. So everyone for miles around knew that Lin Weidong, the lazy bum of the Red Star Brigade, had turned his life around. Just when I thought our lives were finally getting better,
Seventh uncle and a few brigade cadres rushed in, panic-stricken.
the moment he crossed the threshold, he stopped his feet in panic. Weidong, you have to save the lives of everyone in this village.
Seventh uncle, what's going on?
Come inside, quickly.
What did that godforsaken Zhao Baguo do?
Before he got arrested, he actually sold off all the spring seeds in our brigade's granary.
Now, there's nothing left in the warehouse but moldy, old, bad seeds.
Spring plowing is right around the corner. If we plant these dead seeds, we won't harvest a single grain come autumn. The whole village is going to starve. The village officials sighed in despair. Everyone turned their hopeful eyes toward me, remembering the miracle when I grew giant cabbages overnight in the alkaline soil. They were convinced I knew some ancestral secret farming technique.
Weidong, as long as you're willing to help us select the seeds and raise the seedlings,
I'll make sure you're nominated for the position of brigade leader. You'll be the one to take charge.
Seventh uncle, I don't want to be the brigade leader.
But as for selecting the seeds and securing the harvest, you have my word. I, Lin Weidong, will take
The next day, I had people move all the moldy, low-grade seeds from the warehouse to the threshing ground.
will plunge my hands deep into the pile of grain and close my eyes.
I fully activated my botanical affinity perception. I searched frantically through the shriveled, moldy seeds, desperately looking for even the faintest glimmer of life.
Guided by my senses,
I precisely weeded out the seeds that were still viable and secretly channeled my energy to nourish them. On the third day after the seeds were planted,
miraculously, rows of neat green sprouts broke through the soil.
attention villagers, an emergency weather warning has just been issued.
A powerful cold front is sweeping south.
We are expecting an extreme cold wave tonight. The temperature will plunge by 10 degrees. The voice blaring from the loudspeakers sounded like a death knell. If the newly sprouted seedlings were hit by the frost, we would all be dead in the ground by tomorrow. Cries of despair echoed across the threshing ground.
Our newly sparked hope was about to be crushed once again.
What are you crying for? It's not time to give up yet. Listen up, all able-bodied men in the brigade. Go bring out every bit of straw, quilts, and cotton padding from your homes, and send someone to the county seat to buy up every single roll of plastic sheeting they have. We're going to build greenhouses. In this day and age, greenhouse technology was still a rare novelty in remote mountain villages. But to save the crops, the villagers had no choice but to try anything as a last resort. All through the day, we raced against the clock, building the protective shelters across the fields. As night fell, the freezing wind howled, and the temperature plummeted to freezing. I crouched alone in the middle of the field, pressing my hands tightly against the freezing ground,
Pushing my botanical affinity to its absolute limit. Hang in there, little sprouts.
Hold on to the earth's warmth. My desperate plea, please don't freeze to death, spread like an invisible blanket of warmth, wrapping itself around every single seedling. The next morning, as the cold wave receded, the plastic greenhouse was covered in a thick layer of frost.
With trembling hands, this gong slowly peeled back the plastic.
Everyone held their breath.
What they saw left the entire village completely speechless.
But before we could even celebrate, a jeep from the County Agricultural Bureau screeched to a halt right by the field.
A young, arrogant expert stepped out with his nose in the air.
Pointing at my greenhouse and shouting in rage, "This is absolute nonsense. Utter nonsense. Plastic sheets don't let any air in. You're suffocating these seedlings to death. Who came up with this backward, anti-science method? Tear it down, right now."
Skong was too terrified to say a single word.
This was, after all, a technician sent directly from the County Agricultural Bureau. He held the power to allocate fertilizer for the entire commune in his hands. Technician Shu, is it?
Whether they suffocated to death or not.
Why don't we just peel it back and find out? Find out what? You've violated the scientific laws of plant growth. The extreme temperature difference has already rotted their roots to the core. But the moment the sunlight hit the soil, Technician Zhou's eyes nearly popped right out of his head. Beneath the plastic, not a single seedling was dead or rotten. Instead, they stood strong, thick, and perfectly upright. Their leaves a green so vibrant, they practically glowed with life. Under the silent protection of my plant affinity, these seedlings were thriving even more vibrantly than they would in the peak of spring. The villagers erupted into a deafening cheer. They're alive. The seedlings actually survived. This is a miracle.
This is impossible. It makes no scientific sense.
True science means adapting to the local conditions, not just blindly following textbooks. All right, you think you understand science, do you? Do you dare to make a bet with me and the Dafeng Brigade I represent? Let's see whose yield per acre is higher come autumn harvest. If you lose, Hongsing Brigade's fertilizer quota for this year goes entirely to Dafeng Brigade. But I never expected the next challenge that awaited us. Even heaven is on my side. Word of our bit spread like wildfire across the entire commune. The Dafeng Brigade was the model village of the entire county.
They had prime land and 2 water pumps, while our Red Star Brigade had barely anything to start with.
We couldn't even count on fertilizer. But I, Lin Weidong, remained completely confident. Every day, I squatted by the edge of the fields, shoving my hands deep into the soil.
Using my plant affinity ability, I could feel the exact growth of every single crop.
Wherever the land was dry, I had the villagers go and irrigate with absolute precision. And wherever pests appeared, I planted special insect-repelling grass along the ridges, forcing those bugs to steer clear.
Weidong, at this rate of growth,
We're definitely going to win.
Homie from the Dafeng Brigade would bring me meals every day, constantly changing them up.
Looking at the crops shooting up rapidly, changing day by day,
She smiled sweeter than a blooming flower.
I wiped my sweat, looking out over the lush green fields. But deep down, a faint sense of dread washed over me. Because deep underground, I could feel an intense, desperate thirst radiating from the roots.
Sure enough, as midsummer arrived,
The heavens felt like a deflated balloon, dry and lifeless.
not a single drop of rain fell for an entire month. A severe drought broke out. The Baish River, right next to Red Star Brigade, dried up to its bed at a visible rate.
In the fields, the crop leaves began to curl and turn yellow. Anxious villagers were desperately kowtowing in front of the Dragon King temple. Relying on their water pumps, the Dafeng Brigade could still draw water from deep pools to save their crops.
but on our side, not even a muddy puddle was left.
Old Uncle Seven was so frantic he wanted to hang himself.
Even heaven won't help you.
What do you have left to fight me with? I stared at the cracked, parched earth, turned around, and grabbed a heavy iron pickaxe. Pointing at the driest, rockiest slope behind the village, I shouted, "All able-bodied men, grab your tools and follow me there to dig a well."
Dongdi.
That place is nothing but solid rock.
Not even a single weed grows there.
For generations, no one has ever found a single drop of water there. Just trust me and dig. They didn't know that through my plant affinity. I felt the roots of a 100-year-old pine tree on the mountain desperately stretching deep down toward this very spot.
A plant's survival instinct never lies.
20 meters beneath this rocky slope, there is definitely a hidden underground river. Though the villagers were still skeptical, they still followed me, driven by their absolute trust. But I gritted my teeth and swung that heavy iron pickaxe anyway. The metallic clangs echoed through the mountains. Sparks flew like arrows. On the first day, nothing but solid rock. On the second day, still nothing but dry, barren clay. Lin Weidong, if you can actually find water in this pile of rocks,
I'll eat this iron pickaxe right in front of everyone.
just look at him, playing the whole team like fools. The crops are completely dead. I want to see how he's going to pay us back. By the evening of the third day,
The well was already over 10 meters deep.
everyone was utterly exhausted. Our hands were covered in bloody blisters, and still, not a single drop of water.
Zhongzi, give it a rest. There's just no water here.
I didn't say a word. I jumped into the pit alone, pressing my hands flat against the hard bedrock. I could clearly feel it. The underground river, roaring right beneath this thin sheet of rock. I violently raised the heavy iron pickaxe in my hands, summoned every ounce of my strength, and slammed it down right into the crack in the stone. With a loud, muffled crack, a terrifying, spine-chilling rumble echoed from deep underground. The heavy boom shook the earth, and the stone beneath my feet vibrated violently. Get up! Get out of there! Fast! The exact second I scrambled back to the surface,
With a deafening bang,
a torrent of crystal clear, sweet spring water shattered the last layer of rock. It burst forth like a roaring dragon breaking free from the sea.
shooting 3 to 4 meters straight into the air.
Water. We hit water. We actually hit water. The entire village stood frozen in shock for a solid 3 seconds. Then an earth-shattering cheer erupted. Water! We found water! The water was ice cold and sweet, not only saving the crops, but saving the lives of everyone in the village. Meanwhile, Technician Zhou, who had been standing by waiting to mock us, went pale as death. He couldn't squeeze out a single word. He slunk away with his tail between his legs. With this endless, sweet spring, the crops of the Red Star Brigade didn't just survive the drought. Under my careful management, they grew with unprecedented, explosive vigor. By the golden autumn of October, the threshing floor was piled high with golden mountains of grain. When the county sent inspectors to measure the harvest, the Red Star Brigade scored a record-breaking 1,200 caddies of corn per moo. Elite yield reached 800 caddies per moo. The recorder's voice was trembling. This yield completely shattered the provincial record. An entire Red Star Brigade erupted in cheers. We completely crushed the Dafeng Brigade and secured every last bit of resource allocation. But just as the whole village was throwing a massive banquet to celebrate our incredible harvest, a sleek black Hongxi sedan with provincial capital plates suddenly pulled into the brigade headquarters. A silver-haired man stepped out, rowing a prestigious university badge on his chest. He gasped, Who grew this crop?
Quick, take me to meet this mastermind.
This elder was Professor Li, a legendary, leading expert from the Provincial Agricultural University. While inspecting the countryside, he stumbled upon the grain samples from our Red Star Brigade at the purchasing station. He was instantly blown away by the incredible plumpness and vitality of the grains, driving all through the night just to get here. When seventh uncle pointed at me and said, "This was grown by Lin Weidong," Professor Li stared at me, a simple country boy in rough peasant clothes, his jaw dropping in utter disbelief. A miracle. This is an absolute miracle in the world of agriculture. Young man, Comrade Lin, you may have never gone to college, but your raw understanding of the land and crops puts my graduate students to shame. I am making a special exception to admit you to the Provincial Agricultural University for advanced training. Tell me, are you willing to come to the city and go to college? This was a golden ticket, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to completely change my destiny. Every single villager stared at me, holding their breath. My dad was trembling so hard with excitement, he could barely stand. I looked down at Homei, who was clutching my hands so tightly her knuckles were white, and then looked out at this rich, red soil we had watered with our own sweat. Professor Li, thank you so much for your incredible kindness.
But my roots, the roots of Lin Weidong, belong right here in the Red Star Brigade.
Making it to the city on my own doesn't mean anything. I want to stay and lead our brigade to become the richest, most successful model village in the entire province. Professor Li was deeply moved by my vision. On the spot, he declared our brigade especially approved. Key demonstration base for the university. Before long, our doorstep was practically worn down by crowds of people begging to learn our farming secrets. Our lives were thriving, more prosperous than we ever could have dreamed. But just as everything was perfect, the mailman delivered a top-secret, registered letter from the Provincial Military Command's Veterans Sanatorium. My dad tore open the envelope, but the moment his eyes hit the page, every drop of color drained from his face. Dad, what is it? 10 years. After 10 long years, the commander actually uncovered the truth. The injustice I suffered for a decade can finally be clear. I carefully took the letter from his trembling hands. Just one glance, and a wave of pure, white-hot fury rushed straight to my head. It turned out my father was never just some ordinary, simple peasant soldier. He was an elite scout, specially recruited for medicinal herb exploration. 10 years ago, deep in Black Bear Ridge, he discovered an extremely rare, wild, strategic medicinal herb forest. This should have been a massive achievement. Hua Zhao Guo, who was in charge, grew greedy and sold the intel to black market profiteers in the provincial capital. It was Wao Bakuo who led a gang to ambush them on the way, triggering that so-called landslide, brutally crushing my dad's legs and stealing the exploration map. Weidong, although Zhao Guo ended up behind bars, but black market kingpin he colluded with back then has now made a fortune off those rare medicinal herbs, but become a powerful, high-profile tycoon in the provincial capital. Oichang. At the very end of the letter, my old leader scribbled an urgent warning. They will never let things go smoothly for your experimental field. We will definitely try to wipe you out completely. Reading this, I suddenly whipped my head around to look out at the pitch-black night sky. The wind tonight carried an unusual scent of gasoline. Wipe us out completely? We'll see if they actually have what it takes. This experimental field is a base specially approved by the Provincial Agricultural University, and more importantly, it's the lifeline for everyone in the Red Star Brigade to escape poverty and get rich. If anyone dares touch a single sprout, I'll make sure they pay with their life. After making sure my dad and Yayo were settled, I grabbed Homei and rushed to the experimental base at the west end of the village overnight. The night was dark and windy, and a deadly silence hung all around. Crouching on the ridge of the field, I shoved both hands deep into the soil, pushing my plant affinity perception to its absolute limit. My old friends, stay awake from me tonight. I silently gave the command to the surrounding vegetation. I intentionally stimulated the thorny vines on the outer ridge, making the wild nettles grow even thicker, weaving them together into a hidden, natural warning net. The moment an outsider steps in, they'll instantly be wrapped up tight by the raging vines, and even the slightest ripple of emotion from the plants will instantly flash through my mind. Weidong, no matter what kind of scum shows up tonight, I'll stand guard right here with you. Touched, I wrapped my arm around her shoulder. Time ticked by. Second by second, the late-night dew soaked through our cotton coats, and just as we hit peak exhaustion at 2 in the morning, a sharp pain suddenly shot through my mind. That was the violent tearing of the thorny vines along the eastern fence. Immediately after, a muffled boom echoed. Outside the plastic greenhouse at the east corner of the experimental field, a blinding fire erupted, shooting several meters into the air. They made their move. Fire! There's a fire! Don't go over there. It's gasoline. In the flickering firelight, several burly men in black ski masks were carrying iron buckets, sneering viciously as they prepared to splash toxic chemicals onto the core seedling area. You're dead meat. Fire and water have no mercy. But nature always has its own way of balancing the elements. In an instant, I sensed the water hyacinths and tyrant vines planted along the drainage ditch.
I poured my mental energy furiously into them.
These plants, packed with water, bloated and swelled in an instant. Their thick stems burst open, spraying like high-pressure fire hoses. A massive wave of water-soaked branches and leaves shot toward the boundary, forming a natural barrier outside the core area that completely suppressed the fire. The thugs were splashed right in the face by the bursting leaves and branches. Terrified, they stumbled backward, trying to scramble away. I sneered, channeling my mental power once again.
Beneath their feet, the thorny vines I'd pre-planted in the dirt erupted like venomous snakes, wrapping tightly around them.
Sharp, curved thorns dug deep into their pants and their calves.
No matter how they thrashed and crawled, they couldn't break free from these tough vines. I stepped out of the darkness, gripping a heavy iron shovel, and walked right up to the lead thug like a god of wrath. With a swift swing of my shovel, I sent the weapon flying from his hand. I slammed my boot heavily onto his chest.
Speak. That big boss in the provincial capital. What is his name?
You punk. You dare touch Boss Chen of Jinsheng Pharmaceuticals from the provincial capital? Crushing you would be as easy as crushing an ant.
钱大佛昂请凶贩子后刺，马发子还门蜻蜓夫。
10 years ago, he was nothing but a mafia boss smuggling medicinal herbs. I didn't expect him to put on the guise of a legitimate entrepreneur today, while still doing dirty, murderous work behind the scenes. Right at that moment, 2 blinding headlights lit up the entrance of the village. Several military green jeeps came roaring up to the edge of the experimental field. A white-haired old man dressed in a crisp old military uniform, with his chest covered in military medals, walked over quickly, flanked by several guards. Seventh uncle and my father also rushed to the edge of the field, supporting each other. Old leader! Ji Chang, I have let you suffer all these years. The case of the stolen survey maps from back then has been thoroughly investigated. That traitor, Zhao Bagu, has already been handed over to the military court. Today, I'm here to clear your name. The guards rushed forward, pinning down the thugs still struggling in the vines, and handcuffing them all. Excellent work, young man, staying calm in the face of danger and protecting national property.
But Dr. Chan has deep roots in the provincial capital.
We can't bring him down just with these few henchmen. Next month, the provincial capital is hosting the first National Chinese Medicinal Herbs and Agricultural Technology Exhibition. Kinafol wants to use this exhibition to monopolize the entire province's herb supply channels. Weidong, do you have the guts to take your achievements to the provincial capital and smash his reputation to pieces, fair and square, in front of the entire province? Don't worry, old leader. What he owes my family, and what he owes the country, I, Lin Weidong, will make sure he pays it all back with interest this time. Over the next month, the Red Star Brigade entered an unprecedented state of preparation. I pushed my plant affinity ability to its absolute limit, combining it with the scientific methods left by Professor Li. In the core of the experimental field, I cultivated premium red reishi with incredible medicinal potency and a super strain of crops that shattered all yield records. Every single herb carried the blood, sweat, and tears of the Red Star Brigade and bore the hope of clearing my father's name after 10 years of injustice. On the day we left, the entire village gathered at the entrance to see us off. Grandpa Seventh stuffed dozens of boiled eggs the villagers had pooled together into Hong Mei's arms. Go get 'em, son. Bring back the dignity that belongs to us. At the dawn of the early 80s, when the economy was about to take off, the prosperity of the provincial capital was far beyond our imagination. With its wide asphalt roads and towering rows of apartment buildings, we finally arrived at the main venue of the exhibition, the provincial capital's first exhibition hall. Yet, the moment we reached the main entrance clutching our cloth sacks, a slick, greasy security guard roughly blocked our path. Where do you think you're going, you country bumpkins? Do you have any idea that this is a high-end exhibition, exclusively sponsored by Dongsheng Pharmaceuticals? If you're here to beg, beat it. Don't go dirty in our red carpet. Country bumpkins? But after all, this was the provincial capital. Wearing our patched, coarse cotton coats, we indeed looked completely out of place standing at the entrance of this magnificent exhibition hall. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Do you know how many rare and precious herbs are on display at Boss Tan's booth today? If you damage even a single root, you couldn't pay for it even if we sold you off. The guard impatiently stepped forward to shove me, but I lowered my shoulder, using his own momentum against him and sending him stumbling backward until he fell flat on his backside on the steps. What do you think you're doing? How dare you cause trouble on Junsheng Pharmaceuticals' turf? Hey! Just then, a military jeep screeched to a halt right at the bottom of the steps.
Open your blind eyes. These are the key exhibition representatives personally invited by Professor Li of the Provincial Agricultural University. Let's see who dares to stop me. Holding Han Mei's hand tight, I held my head high and marched straight into the exhibition hall. Right in the center of the hall, in front of the most luxurious booth, a middle-aged man with slicked back hair was surrounded by a crowd of reporters. Hearing the commotion, he turned around and his icy, venomous glare locked right onto mine. Can that fool? 10 years of living in luxury had made him soft and fat, but the eyes beneath his hooked nose still gleamed with the cold malice of a venomous snake. After brushing off the reporters around him, he strolled over to us, swirling a wine glass in his hand. Well, aren't we bold? To think Lin Xixian's son would actually make it all the way to the provincial capital. But the waters are deep here, in the city. Watch out, or you might just drown. I heard you brought some local specialties. I will offer 10,000 yuan for your exhibition spot and everything you brought. I'll buy it all. In this day and age, 10,000 yuan was enough to buy half a village. The onlookers listening in all gasped, thinking I had hit the jackpot. I let out a cold laugh, staring him dead in the eye. Boss Tian, 10 years ago you crippled my father. Add to that your crime of stealing state exploration maps. How much do you think all of that is worth? You think 10,000 yuan can buy out the pride of the Lin family? You've seriously miscalculated this time. So, you want to do this the hard way. On my turf. I'll make sure you don't sell a single blade of grass. The exhibition evaluation officially began. Just as we finished setting up our red Lingji and other displays on the booth. Weidong, this is bad. The committee just changed the evaluation rules at the last minute, and the head of the judging panel was just replaced by Qin Dafu's own brother-in-law. Up on the judges' stage, a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses sat with a smug, arrogant grin. It was none other than Qin Dafu's brother-in-law, Chairman Wu.
Qin Dafui went first. His team presented an extremely luxurious, ornate silk box.
Inside lay a so-called premium Changbai Mountain wild ginseng.
Chairman Wu immediately led the applause.
Handed down the highest score of the entire competition. Watching from below, I scoffed. That was no wild ginseng. It was nothing but cheap, ordinary ginseng dyed to look like a premium specimen. Then the announcer called. Northwest Hongxing Brigade. It was our turn. I didn't bother with any fancy packaging. I simply untied our rough burlap sack and placed our carefully cultivated red Lingji right onto the exhibition table. The moment the red Lingji was revealed, the noisy hall fell dead silent. A few honest old doctors of traditional medicine couldn't sit still and stood right up. Ridiculous! The color of this Lingji is way too artificial. Anyone can see it's a poison soaked in industrial dye. Think Weidong. How dare you use fake medicine to poison the people of this city? Security! Arrest him right now! Several security guards pounced on me like wild wolves. The entire venue fell into utter chaos. Homie was terrified, clinging tightly to my arm. Hold on. You're saying my Lingji is dyed poison? Chairman Wu, since you claim to be an expert, do you have the guts to test it right here, in front of everyone? Without waiting for his reply, I broke off a small piece from the edge of the Lingji and dropped it straight into a glass of boiling water on the judge's table. When pure Lingji hits water, it turns a clear, light, golden yellow. A rich, herbal aroma filled the air, with absolutely no fading or chemical residue. Is this the dye you were talking about? And since we're testing things, let's do a thorough job. Respected doctors, please take a look at the premium wild ginseng from Jinsheng Pharmaceuticals. I grabbed Chendafu ginseng and slammed it down with force. With a sharp crack, the ginseng snapped in half, and several shocking lead weights rolled right out of it. The broken ends reeked of a pungent chemical sulfur smell. The crowd erupted in shock. Dozens of reporters started flashing their cameras frantically.
Kinify turned white as a sheet,
Shaking like a leaf. Yeah, you're framing me. You swapped this ginseng just now. Is that so? You're at death's door, and you still dare to make excuses? Fully armed police officers flooded into the room like a tide, led by none other than the commanding old chief himself. In his hand, the old chief held a yellowed ledger high in the air. He marched onto the stage with absolute authority and slammed the ledger right into Chandafu's face.
天诈妇，天喜个有，于腾路的我讲包过，他摸着的那上积了诸高所谓的水子。
Stealing the coordinates of the state's secret medicinal forest. Over the years, you've monopolized the market, churning out and selling fake medicine. Every single one of your dirty, corrupt transactions is recorded right here. The massive business empire he had painstakingly built over 10 years crumbled to dust in an instant. Take them all away. Cold, heavy handcuffs snapped onto Qian Dafu and his corrupt brother-in-law. The entire venue erupted in a deafening roar of applause. With a trembling, excited voice, Professor Li declared,
The cultivation technology of the Hongsing Brigade is a true agricultural miracle. On behalf of the Provincial Agricultural University, I officially announce we will fully promote both of Hongsing Brigade's signature crop varieties.
Did you see that, Dad?
I've finally reclaimed our family's dignity. This battle in the provincial capital has made my name, Lin Weidong, echo throughout the province's entire agricultural trade circle. With a non-stop stream of orders and massive cash deposits in hand, we returned to our village in absolute triumph. But the moment we reached the village entrance, I saw the entire village gathered outside the brigade headquarters.
Seventh uncle rushed over to meet us, his face filled with anxiety.
Weidong, something big has happened. Orders just came down from the top. The village land is about to be contracted out to individual households. Dividing the land among households?
We actually get to farm our own plots?
This is an absolute game changer. From now on, whatever we grow is ours to keep.
No more sharing from the giant communal pot.
But before the excitement could even settle, the sound of heated arguments almost blew the roof off the village office. Why the hell does your family get that fertile plot down by the riverbank? We have more able-bodied workers.
It belongs to us.
Get the hell out of here. My grandfather was the one who cleared that land in the first place. To secure the best land.
Su Dashang even lost a shoe in the chaotic scuffle.
His face turning bright red as he locked horns with several beefy guys from the west side.
Seventh uncle banged his pipe and yelled until he was hoarse. But absolutely nobody was listening.
Seeing that the tension had peaked,
I stepped right up onto the stone platform. Everyone, quiet down.
Seventh uncle.
There's no need to shout anymore. That rocky slope at Devil's Ridge on the east side of the village,
along with those dozens of acres of barren alkaline land further north.
Give them all to me,
Lin Weidong.
The rest of the fertile flat fields can be split equally among everyone else. Weidong, have you lost your mind? Devil's Ridge is nothing but solid rock.
Not even weeds can grow there.
Are you planning to live on nothing but air if you contract that wasteland?
Dukyung, let's leave the fertile land to our fellow villagers, so everyone has enough to eat.
I'm young, so I've always loved taking on the toughest challenges.
The villagers thought I was some noble, living saint, wiping away tears of gratitude.
But only I knew the truth.
Leasing that desolate Devil's Ridge
was all part of my, Lin Weidong's, grand master plan. That night, I climbed up the rocky slope all by myself.
I pressed both hands against the ice-cold rock,
And that powerful surge of life force deep underground, which I had craved for so long, could finally see the light of day.
Others only saw the barren surface of Devil's Ridge.
But they didn't know that through my special plant affinity,
I could sense a perfect underground river hidden deep beneath this rocky slope.
What's more, the rock layers were incredibly rich in rare minerals. This was quite literally a perfect natural breeding ground for premium medicinal herbs.
Using my plant affinity overnight, I cleared several tiny underground water channels, allowing the moisture from the hidden river to slowly seep up to the surface. Then I carefully sowed the seeds of precious Chinese herbs I brought back from the provincial capital, dendrobium and saffron, into the cracks of the rocks.
Come on, my little friends.
Drink your fill.
And spread your roots to your heart's content. My thoughts transformed into a warm spring breeze,
Gently breathing life into these delicate seeds.
In just 3 days, specks of green began sprouting all over the rocky slope.
Those seemingly fragile roots,
Guided by my power,
pierced deep into the rocky crevices like steel needles.
greedily absorbing every drop of nutrients. Half a month later,
The once barren Devil's Ridge was covered in patches of vibrant purple and red blossoms.
the sweet herbal fragrance even drifted all the way into the village. When Chief Song from the County Supplies Bureau heard the news, he rushed right over. The moment he saw the entire mountain covered in dendrobium, he slapped his thigh in sheer excitement. Weidong, this is a sacred herb that's worth more than gold. This rocky slope of yours is nothing short of a gold mine. From our very first harvest, I made a net profit of 30,000 yuan, seeing stacks of cash being hauled right through the gates of the Lin family home. Everyone in the village turned green with envy.
Su Dashang, in particular, was beating his chest in deep regret.
One by one, the villagers came knocking on my door with gifts, begging me to teach them how to grow these herbs. With a wave of my hand, I said, just as I was preparing to lead the entire village to fortune,
A bizarre, dark cloud suddenly rolled across the sky.
it blotted out the sun, accompanied by a skin-crawling buzzing sound. That was no cloud. It was a devastating plague of locusts.
Old Man Chi, leaning on his walking stick, stared at the dense, sky-blotting swarm.
Trembling with absolute terror, he collapsed right onto the ground, his legs giving out. This rare late-spring cold snap in the early 1980s hadn't just ruined the crops. It had also spawned this horrifying plague of locusts.
These starving pests were like a black whirlwind, leaving absolutely nothing but bare dirt wherever they went.
Quick, bang the pots, light the fires! The villagers rushed into the fields like madmen, grabbing old pans to bang on and lighting damp straw to create thick smoke. But against this massive swarm, their efforts were like trying to put out a forest fire with a cup of water.
Sadasang lay prostrate in his newly allocated field,
Staring at the completely stripped wheat sprouts, and wailed in despair. It's over. It's all over. Our food for the entire year is gone. A suffocating despair hung over everyone. Standing on the hillside, I watched the rampaging swarm, my face grim. Fortunately, my medicinal herb fields were protected by strategically planted pest-repelling herbs, so they were safe for now. But I couldn't just stand by and let the villagers' survival be destroyed. I shut my eyes tight and thrust my hands deep into the soil. My plant affinity erupted like a tsunami. Chinnaberry trees and pyrethroms on the back mountain. Wake up! Release your most toxic sap and scent into the air, now! This was the first time I'd ever pushed my mind so far past its limits. In an instant, the insect-repelling plants all over the mountain began to grow at an insane rate. A strong, pungent, and strange herbal aroma surged on the wind, forming an invisible wall and slamming violently into the swarm in midair. What happened next was absolutely breathtaking. That overpowering aroma, synthesized from thousands of chinnaberry trees and pyrethroms, was merely a sharp smell to humans, but to the locusts, it was a lethal poison. Pitter-patter. It was as if a black hail was raining down from the heavens. The moment they came into contact with the scent, the locusts acted as if they were drunk, falling from the sky in massive, endless sheets. They crashed into the fields, twitching and dying. The locusts. They're dead. The villagers stared at the thick layer of dead pests covering the ground, completely unable to believe their own eyes. My face was deathly pale, and I collapsed onto the dirt ridge of the field, completely drenched in sweat. This one move had nearly drained every last drop of my energy. Although we managed to save half the crops, a massive drop in yield was already inevitable. Looking at the despair on the faces of my fellow villagers, I stood up and shouted, "Everyone, don't panic! Our grain yield might be down, but we'll find another way to make that money back. I, Lin Weidong, will personally fund a Chinese herbal medicine processing plant right here in our village. Starting today, we aren't just growing grain. I will lead the entire village in cultivating medicinal herbs." The moment those words left my mouth, the Red Star Brigade erupted with excitement once again. The new household responsibility system had already given everyone a drive to work, and my processing plant was the ultimate reassurance they needed. A few months later, Lang's herbal medicine processing plant officially opened its doors. The once impoverished Red Star Brigade was completely transformed. Every single family built brand new, spacious brick houses, becoming a famous village of wealthy 10,000 yuan households throughout the county. Just as our lives were getting better and better, terrible news arrived from the provincial capital. Although the crooked Dr. Qian had been locked up, his remaining associates in other cities wanted revenge. They had secretly monopolized a key herb our plant desperately needed. The crimson vine, trying to choke our entire production line to death. Tens of thousands of yuan worth of herbs in the factory were about to go completely to waste. The crimson vine market is completely monopolized. We can't even buy 1 single pound of it out there. I looked at the panicked factory manager, my brow furrowed deep. This batch of medicine was meant for the provincial hospital to make specialized blood-stopping drugs. If we failed to deliver, not only would we face massive penalties for breach of contract, but the hard-earned reputation of the Red Star Brigade would be completely ruined. We don't. What on earth do we do now? We aren't going to sit around and wait to die. If we can't buy it out there, we'll go into the mountains and harvest it ourselves. I let out a cold snort, looking out toward Death Valley, buried deep within the endless ridges of Eagle Mountain, a place that never sees a single ray of sunlight. But there, the purple blood vine is guaranteed to grow. My dad suddenly grabbed my arm. No! Death Valley has been a forbidden zone since ancient times. It's filled with toxic miasma, and the wild boar king roams free. Going there is a death sentence. Dad, hold me. Don't worry. This mountain can't hurt me. After reassuring them, I grabbed a machete and ventured alone once more into the deepest depths of Eagle Mountain. The deeper I went, the more dense the towering ancient trees became. Sunlight could barely penetrate the thick canopy. The flora here radiated a wild, primal energy. I released my plant affinity, trying to connect with this ancient forest. Suddenly, a wave of intense resistance and warning signals flashed in my mind. This signal didn't come from some ordinary plant, but from a towering ancient tree that had lived for thousands of years. It was warning me that something extremely dangerous lay ahead. Pushing my way through the thick miasma, what I saw made me gasp in shock. Right there, beneath a cliff covered in purple blood vines, was a massive hidden military bunker. The rusty iron door was left slightly ajar, venting a bone-chilling cold from within. Through that half-open, rusted door, thick, heavy vines crawled all over its surface, Taking a deep breath, I pressed my palm against the stone wall next to the door. My plant affinity perception swept into the cave like radar. There were no signs of large predators inside, only an incredibly vibrant surge of plant life, and a faint mysterious calling. I gave the heavy iron door a hard push. A blast of freezing damp air hit me right in the face, shining my flashlight ahead. What lay before me took my breath away. It was an abandoned air raid shelter, left behind from the war days. But what was even more shocking was that the constant temperature and high humidity inside the shelter. Hanging in thick clusters from the ceiling and stone walls was the purple blood vine I had been searching so desperately for. And that wasn't all. Deep inside the air raid shelter, dozens of large wooden crates were stacked up in neat rows. I walked over and pried one of them open. To my shock, it was packed to the brim with premium processed, dried purple blood vine. The crates were even stamped with the logo of Jinsheng Pharmaceutical. In an instant, it all clicked.
田大福卖比达到聘上。
But his remaining lackeys wanted to completely monopolize the province's herbal medicine market. They had aggressively bought up every single purple blood vine on the market and hid them here, in Death Valley, a place even seasoned hunters feared to tread. They weren't just trying to cut off the supply. They were hoarding them to corner the market, pieing to make a dirty fortune off people's misery. I had searched far and wide, and here it was, handed to me on a silver platter. My heart hammered wildly against my ribs. But just as I was preparing to pack up the dried herbs and get out, a sudden mess of footsteps and the bright glare of flashlights came from outside the shelter. Immediately after, a sinister voice echoed inside. Boss, hiding this stash here is absolutely foolproof. Haha. Once we force the Hangxing Brigade's processing factory into bankruptcy, we can sell this batch of purple blood vine to hospitals for 10 times the price. Who's in there? The thugs outside had obviously heard the sound of me prying open the wooden crate. They all drew their machetes and homemade shotguns from their waists and rushed in with murderous intent. The one leading them was Scarface, who was exactly Chain Dafu's former right-hand man.
Lin Weidong.
There is a path to heaven, yet you chose not to take it. And there is no door to hell, yet you barged right in. Today, I'm going to end you right here. I was all by myself, while the other side had 5 armed hispanos. Going head-to-head was definitely not an option. I backed away quickly, pressing my hands firmly against the stone wall covered in purple blood vines. My plant affinity instantly surged to its absolute limit. Old friends, block the entrance for me. Release the hallucinogenic spores from the ceiling. All living things have a spirit. As if they understood my command, the once still purple blood vines began to grow and drake down wildly from the ceiling and stone walls like countless green pythons, instantly weaving into a thick wall of vines between me and the thugs. Meanwhile, suddenly the wild fungi growing in the dark corners burst open, releasing a massive cloud of purple spores. What the hell is that smell? The thugs inhaled the toxic spores and instantly felt the world spinning around them. Terrifying hallucinations flashed before their eyes. Screaming in terror, they dropped their machetes. Some curled up in the corner, clutching their heads and crying out in pain. Others mistook their own men for wild beasts, pouncing on them in a frenzied, biting struggle. Finally, they all foamed at the mouth and collapsed, unconscious. Boss, why the hell are you hacking at me? While they were trapped in their hallucinations, tearing each other apart, I managed to squeeze and crawl out of a narrow ventilation shaft on the other side of the bomb shelter. By the time I lugged the heavy sacks back to our production brigade's processing factory, the courtyard was in total chaos. A group of supply and marketing coup officers were shoving my stepmother, Jog Hongmei. My father had collapsed to the ground, shaking with rage. Since the Lin family can't deliver the purple blood vine on time, we are shutting down this processing factory today. If you can't pay the breach of contract fee, you'll have to hand over this factory to our cooperative as collateral. Ha! I knew Lin Weidong was biting off more than he could chew. Now look what happened. The family is completely ruined. Weidong went into the mountains to harvest the herbs. He will definitely be back before dark today. Don't you dare touch that factory door. He went into Death Valley? He's probably been ripped to shreds by wild bears by now. Seal it up, the bald officer barked, waving his hand. Let's see who dares touch it. A thunderous roar echoed from outside the courtyard. I slammed the 2 massive sacks off my back, onto the stone pavement in the middle of the yard. The sacks tore open, revealing the stunning, absolutely flawless purple blood vines inside. Instantly, the entire yard fell dead silent. The bald officer's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He stammered, "So many premium-grade purple blood vines. This is impossible." All the stock on the market was clearly already hidden in Death Valley by your accomplices, right? I sneered, strode right up to him,
and grabbed him tightly by his collar.
"You conspired with outsiders to choke off our supply to the hospital, just so you could steal my factory?" Did they really think no one could touch them? The cadres' faces turned pale with dread. Just as they were about to make excuses, several jeeps with sirens blaring screeched to a halt right at the factory gates. Hugh Song jumped out of the vehicle, leading his entire squad of officers. He held an arrest warrant firmly in his hand,
glaring sharply at those corrupt cadres.
"We received the tip from Comrade Lin Weidong," he announced. "You are suspected of colluding with hostile factions to illegally sell strategic materials. Take them all away." "We've been framed, officers." Bakal Godre's legs buckled in terror. Before he knew it, he was slapped with handcuffs and shoved into the back of a police car. Chuv Song walked over, clearly thrilled, and clapped me hard on the shoulder. "Weidong, great job. The location you gave us was spot on. In the air defense shelter over at Death Valley, we didn't just capture those thugs who were still hallucinating. We also seized an entire train car full of smuggled medicinal herbs. This time, you didn't just save the hospital. You achieved something truly monumental." Hearing this, the villagers of the Red Star Brigade in the courtyard erupted into deafening cheers. Su Dakshang stared at the premium purple blood vine covering the ground, and then at me, chatting like brothers with the county leaders. He regretted his choices so bitterly, his guts turned green. He desperately wanted to slap himself across the face. With this batch of purple blood vine, the Lin family processing factory only needed to deliver the miracle drug on schedule. In just a few short months, the Red Star Brigade became the province's most famous cultivation and processing base for Chinese herbal medicine. Every household savings soared past 5 figures. Electricity was brought into the village, and even paved smooth asphalt roads. At the year-end commendation ceremony, as the province's leading pioneer in poverty alleviation and wealth generation, I was honored with a giant red flower pinned to my chest and received a massive bonus of 2,300 yuan, specially approved by the province. Stepping down from the stage, I walked straight over to Hongmi, who was sitting in the family section. I pulled that thick stack of prize money from my jacket, looked at her blushing cheeks, and said in a clear, loud voice, "Kogri, I've made enough money now. Tomorrow I'm going to let the entire village see exactly how grandly and proudly I, Lin Weidong, will marry you." On the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, an auspicious day for marriage, the entrance to the Red Star Brigade erupted with the joyous sound of gongs and drums. Firecrackers roared in celebration, and every villager, young and old, put on their finest new clothes, just like for the Lunar New Year. Crowds of people lined both sides of the road, craning their necks in anticipation. Down on the asphalt road, in the distance, 5 green jeeps, adorned with giant red wedding ribbons, rolled up in a single, majestic line. They looked absolutely magnificent as they approached. These beauties were personally approved and lent to me by Section Chief Song of the County Bureau and the military district's old commander, just to give me the grandest entrance. Dressed in a sharp, crisp mouth suit, with a bright red wedding corsage pinned to my chest, I leaped out of the jeep. In the Su family courtyard, Su Dakshang had already put on his brand new padded jacket,
Grinning from ear to ear.
and nervously wringing his hands. "Uncle Dakshang, remember when you looked down on me for being poor and kicked me out of your house? Well, today I, Lin Weidong, am back with this motorcade and the title of the richest man in the village to keep my promise. Oh, Weidong, my wonderful son-in-law. Your uncle was blind back then. Hongmi marrying you is the absolute greatest blessing of her life." Just then, the doors swung open and Hongmi stepped out, wearing a beautiful, bright red padded jacket. Even though her short hair hadn't fully grown back yet, her clear eyes were shimmering with tears of pure joy. I walked up to her and took her hand firmly in mine. My father, Lin Jichang, leaned on his brand new red sandalwood cane, grinning so wide he couldn't close his mouth. My little sister, Yaya, was tossing wedding candies into the crowd, while the entire village cheered and applauded for us. I looked out over this red soil, transformed by my plant affinity power, and then at the woman I loved by my side, and the villagers who had finally prospered. In my heart, I whispered to my old companions, "Thank you for sharing your life force with me. This prosperity is everything we ever dreamed of."